Hi everyone, it's time for another MECCA moment. I have the wonderful Dr. Mercedes Ebanks and Dr. Keisha Mack with us today. Today we're talking about coping with stress. How you guys doing?
Hi, Brandon.
Hi, Brandon.
Hello. Okay, so we had a little bit of stress of our own trying to get on air today, right?
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
But
so
we made it. We made it.
we made it, and that's pretty much what's happening right now. Things probably don't go as planned, but you have to make the best of it, and at the end of the day, just show up. Dr. Ebanks, Dr. Mack, we're talking about coping with pandemic stress. Let's start with children. How can children cope with the stress of dealing with this pandemic that, life has changed and, it's completely not anything we've seen for this current generation. How can children deal with this stress?
By talking about their feelings and how this is bothering them or affecting them. And it also depends on what is, again, age appropriate
Yes.
in terms of how they're going to communicate those feelings. With smaller children, you may want to do a lot more in terms of coloring and drawing pictures, and with the older children, you can certainly encourage them to write in a journal, to be able to express their feelings and how this is impacting them. But communicating is most important, some form of communication.
So communication is good. I forgot to introduce you guys. You are both partners in the MECCA Group, right, in Washington, D.C. Dr. Ebanks, you're a behavior specialist and a parent coordinator. Dr. Mack, you are a clinical psychologist, and you have a whole team of people who are here to help during this crisis through telehealth. Dr. Mack, can you tell us about that before we go back into the question I asked you earlier?
Sure. As you said, we have a whole team of providers. Our team consists of licensed professional counselors, licensed social workers, licensed psychologists, behavioral therapists, ABA, speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, and they're all able to provide support during this time via telehealth. So we have a lot of resources, and we have lots of folks who are available to provide that support during this time. Telehealth is an exceptional resource at this moment because doing this in face-to-face is something that we are not able to do right now, but it does not limit your ability to receive the support that you need right now.
Now, Dr. Mack, you mainly deal with young adults, adolescents. How is this stressful time for that group, that population?
Sure. So this is a very interesting time for adolescents and young adults in particular, those who are in high school, who may be planning to graduate or to experience prom, and even college students who were expecting to graduate this year, when all of those things are now, they're not going to happen. So they're probably experiencing what feels like grief and loss, because it is a major loss to them. And so it's important to acknowledge that feeling of loss and not minimize it, because these are major milestones in life that they were expecting to experience. And even some of the parents are, this may have been the first child to graduate from college or even graduate from high school. So that's a loss for some of the parents as well. So it's important to acknowledge that and to understand that they may be going through what looks like grief and loss.
Are you seeing the same thing with children, Dr. Ebanks? How can you explain the sense of grief and loss in terms of not being able to go to school, new schedules? How can parents explain this new transition that we're experiencing right now?
In bits and pieces, I would suggest, again, trying to keep to a schedule, incorporate some of the things that they did enjoy in school, not only the academics, but PE, physical education, incorporating music, art, any of the other special activities, for example, Spanish or a language. So helping to kind of mimic what was happening in school. I know that many teachers are trying to do distance learning. So communicating with teachers to see if they're doing live video chats, reading books online to the students. And even if their school is not doing it, there are many teachers that are doing it. So they could still have the classroom type of environment in home. And I certainly encourage parents to try to do virtual play dates, allowing them to see their friends, because that is a loss for many children who that are used to having lunch with their friends and talking and having recess with their friends. Keeping that time to be able to bond is very important.
It's very important, and we're in an extreme case of social isolation, Dr. Mack. How do adolescents and adults deal with this unprecedented, 24-hour lockdown, and still feel connected to other people?
Well, again, it's a very, as you said, a very unique situation, and one that none of us probably expected to experience in our lifetime. But this is probably the best time to experience it because we do have that technology. Imagine before the internet how this would be for everybody. It would be even more devastating than it is now. So as Dr. Ebanks was saying, we have to utilize the technology in a different way than we have been utilizing it. I know a lot of parents are, limiting screen time and maybe only typically would allow them to do things on weekends. But I think there has to be some shifting in how we're thinking about technology now, so that there are opportunities, even for the adolescents, to interact with their peers via FaceTime, via different kinds of hangouts, Zoom. And even when we're thinking about some of these losses that they're experiencing with relationship to graduations and proms, you can get creative. And of course, you got to have your kids buy in, because if they aren't buying into it, then it's a waste. So, being creative and maybe even doing a virtual prom or doing a virtual graduation, getting all the family on Zoom or getting all the friends together and even dressing up a bit and having a party. But utilizing that technology to create as much social connection as possible.
And the MECCA Group has been using a lot of technology, and of course, practitioners all over the country right now have had to kind of pull out, that the cell phones, virtual sessions. It used to be something, where practitioners thought, wow, we'd rather be in person, but now everyone's doing that. How has a MECCA Group used technology to help people in this time?
Sure. I'll talk about it a little bit, and then Dr. Ebanks can jump in and share some additional points as well. We use a HIPAA compliant platform that allows us to screen share and talk to our clients, and it's secure, it's safe, and it allows us to be able to have that experience of being in person, although we cannot be in person. And we can utilize this with anyone who is in need of that support, from children through adulthood. They could all use this platform, and it's very simple, very similar to what we're doing here with Zoom and like I said, Hangouts or one of those other platforms. It's very similar. However, it's a safe and secure HIPAA compliant platform that we use. Did you want to add anything, Dr. Ebanks?
Yes, and we also know that some individual clients may not have the technology to be able to also access services. So being available to speak to the client over the phone is also available for our clients. And we also provide services in Spanish. We have therapists who do speak Spanish and are able to provide telehealth services in Spanish.
We talked about this unprecedented time. Do you see a lot of new patients, new people coming in who had no previous experiences or challenges with depression, loneliness, anxiety, or are you seeing an influx of people coming in and calling about their new concerns?
Yes, and sometimes it's because people might think that, again, therapy, you have to have a problem, you have to have a mental health issue or disorder, and this is a time of adjustment. This is, as you said, unprecedented. This is a situation many, if not all, have never faced before. So it is a period of adjustment, and not necessarily, maybe people just need tips. Maybe a person just has a question or two and they want to know, but it is very important to be able to access that information, and we try to be a resource for clients who do just call in to ask a question or two or want some additional information about services perhaps closer in their area.
Well, speaking of tips, and I- tips for parents. Here's a question. I was just talking today with someone, and I said Happy Friday, and they're like, every day is a Friday because we're all at home, right? Every day's a Friday. How do parents separate the days of the weeks from weekday to weekend, Dr.
Yes.
Ebanks, when we're not going anywhere?
Well, I did see a meme today, and it crossed out every sun. Everything was day. I think it is very important to talk about what day of the week it is, say the date,
Yes.
and also to kind of follow that routine. It's Friday, so whatever you normally do, in our household, we call it Fun Friday. So after school, we do a fun activity. I'm trying to keep to that same. Saturdays and Sundays shouldn't look like Monday and Tuesday. So following that as well, during the day, do the same thing. Get up, get dressed, put on some clothes. You may not have to put a suit and tie, but if you're used to wearing, slacks and, a polo shirt or, a dress, you could still do that at home. Feel as if you're doing something so that the 24 hours don't look like, the same thing all day long. I certainly, encourage the children to get up and get dressed and to still have that, morning, afternoon, and evening routine. For the weekends, if your dining room table has now become your desk, pack it up on Fridays. Turn it back to a dining room table on the weekends and eat there, or have it, set up with candles or whatever you normally do, so it doesn't look like you're working now 24/7.
I like that, changing your physical space to look like the days of the week. Would you agree the same for young adults and adolescents, Dr. Mack? A routine?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to add that actually is that you want to have space in your home. No matter how large, how small it is, but you want to have space in your home where you have workspace and you have space that is home. I know for me, I will work in one room only, and at the end of the day, I shut it down and I leave my work in there, and then I separate myself and come into my living space. And find a way to be creative to do that in your home, no matter what size it is. As Dr. Ebanks said, if it's your table, convert it back to your dining table at the end of the week. But you definitely want to have some space, and that includes adolescents. Not allowing them just to stay in their room all day, all day, all night, and doing everything in their room. That's isolation, which could lead to depression. You don't want to have that. You want to have them out interacting with the family, and just creating different kinds of spaces, and maybe utilizing their room for bedtime or when they have their downtime, but not allowing them to have that time in their room all day. That is something that could potentially turn into something more, more dangerous, so to speak, in this particular climate, because they're spending so much time alone.
And then there are other moments where you want to spend time alone. If you're married, or you have a couple and you want to get away from your kids, how do you create that private alone time? Both of you guys can answer this. What can parents do for themselves during this time, single or married, just to separate and have just alone time?
Have date night. That That date night is going to be a little different. Have your family time where you guys are playing a game, watching a movie together, but put the children to bed, tell them to go to another room. If you have 2 bedrooms in the house only, have them go to one room and you all do something in your room, but have that time together and letting the children know, this is mommy and daddy time. This is me time. This is family time. So that, again, everybody is being able to have a little bit of time together and as well as productive alone time, not feeling us isolated. There's a difference between wanting to be, have alone time, that time of tranquility and quiet time, versus feeling isolated. So you do have to monitor if children are feeling isolated and letting them know. And then sometimes the children now they have you 24/7 literally. So they want to be around you all the time. And it's okay to say, you know what, mommy and daddy, or mommy or daddy need some quiet time. And watching a movie or reading a book or, or sitting on your deck, just, enjoying, the view.
One of the things that I, also recommend is, in finding that time, it may also include creating a schedule for yourself, or the parents creating a schedule for themselves. And that could include getting up earlier in the day and doing meditation, doing exercise routine, going for a run, allowing, and there are 2 parents, then, one parent having one day, another parent having another day, creating a schedule for yourselves to be able to have some of that time to yourself, because that is going to be important, because you are in a situation, again, a very unique situation, where you are in somebody's presence 24/7, and that is not something that we are accustomed to, and we're not built for. We're being realistic. We're just not built for that. So you have to find ways to create and carve out that time. And with with exercise, I think that's important for everyone in the household, because exercise creates endorphins, which gives you positive feelings, and helps your mood. So being able to create that exercise routine for the family, but also finding ways to incorporate that maybe for yourself as a part of you having your me time can be really important.
Now, is there a difference between being alone and loneliness? Could you explain the difference between those two? There are a lot of people who live at home by themselves, but they're not exactly loneliness. What's the difference? And when should you know that something's changing and that you might need to seek help?
I think of course, there's a difference. Being alone simply means that you're by yourself, but you're still content with being in that situation. You're not feeling any kind of negative feelings about being alone and in that space. When you start noticing your mood changing, your attitude may be changing, feeling different about being by yourself, that's when it becomes more of the loneliness, when you start feeling like you're missing out on something or someone. That's more along the lines of what being lonely is. And when it starts to really impact your mood and changes in how you're feeling and probably interacting with others, then that's when you might want to think about reaching out to someone.
Doctors, we don't really know what's going to happen in the future. We're taking it day by day. What are some tips for people to stay in the moment and stay present, and be healthy and move towards well-being instead of anxiety and depression?
Certainly to take that deep breath and be patient with yourself and the situation, and taking it day by day, not necessarily making long-term plans, because we don't know how long this situation is going to last. And also depending on where you live, geographically, it is impacting differently, at the moment. But again, that keeps changing. So I would certainly say be present, and continue to communicate, be aware, but don't let the news news and the information to start wearing down on you, because, it can. Overexposure can certainly take a mental toll on a person. So knowing when to turn it off, turn on some music, do that meditation that Dr. Mack spoke about, knowing when you need some me time, knowing when you want to be around family if you're single, knowing when you need to call a friend, reach out, at this point. If you're okay, someone else may not be okay. So check in, send a text, do a call, do some FaceTime with others.
Yeah, to add to that, as you were saying, I think it's really important to stay in the moment and go day by day. And, just, having that structure in your day can help you to get through that day. And recognizing at the end of the day, I made it through this day. We made it through this moment. That's all you have control over. Every single day is that moment in time. You have no control over what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. And as Dr. Ebanks pointed out, this thing is changing so ever quickly that all you really can do is focus on what's happening in the moment. When you start thinking about what could be, what is going to be, that's when the anxiety starts, because you don't know and you don't have control over that. And not having that control is what contributes to that anxiety. And so that's why it's very important to really kind of stay focused on what you're doing presently in that moment, because that's all you have control over at this time. And that's really the key right now, is being able to control what you can control in this moment.
Doctors, can we just take a collective deep breath? like, oh my gosh, this is great information. Yeah, I feel so much better just doing that. And it's really about what you say. Changing a deep breath can change a lot. Am I right, Dr. Mack?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And, that's a big part of, when we're talking about coping strategies, deep breathing is a big coping strategy that we use all the time with our clients. Taking that deep breath, deep inside from the stomach, from the gut, up and out. Shallow breathing comes from the chest. And that's typically what you experience when you're having anxiety and when you're panicked. You hear that's shallow breathing, that's anxious breathing. But when you breathe from your diaphragm, from your gut, that deep breathing is what is the relaxing breath. So you want to focus on breathing from your diaphragm, from your gut, and that's where the good breath comes from.
The good breath. We have a question from one of the people on Facebook. It says, recently my daughter's friend asked if we can go for a walk since we live nearby. What's a nice way of saying no without coming off offensive? Either one of you?
I think being honest and saying that we're really living in difficult times, and they can even point to what is recommended by the CDC or what's being done in your local community. In our local community here, we are on a stay-at-home order, and in doing the walking or even doing the exercise, which we're allowed to do, they make it very clear you're only to do this with individuals in your household. So we technically can't do that. So I think it's okay to say, we can't do it because we're ordered not to do that. And it's honest. And I think that's what we have to be at this moment, is just to be honest.
Yeah, I know that there are, I've seen a lot of segments of people doing workouts even outside together, but they're doing it from one porch to another, or people, dancing outside, but again, they are really adhering to the, 6 feet, of social distancing, but even being more precautious and really, doing that from afar. So again, using social media or other ways of technology so the children can still communicate and be able to talk or do FaceTime together. But right now, for everyone's safety, not only your child, but the other children and their family members, it's best that they just do not interact with one another. And perhaps doing it with your children, if they want to go out for a walk or they want to explore, outside, they're doing the live bear hunts, and, talk to other neighbors and seeing how can we, do something for the children in the neighborhood.
I know we have to go. Dr. Mack, there's a full team of people ready to help at the MECCA Group. What's the phone number that people can contact?
Sure. Our number is 202-529-3117. And we can be found online at www.themecca Group, that's THEMECCA Group LLC.com. And we're also on Facebook and IG and of the name at the MECCA Group.
Any last parting words that you want to tell the people out there who have joined us on this live? We were just a few minutes late, but we're here, just like everyone else. We're here. Any more tips, last words before we go?
We just want to thank everyone for, supporting the MECCA Group, our friends and family, and really getting the word out, not just because they're being supportive of us, but knowing how important this information is to get to others. So continue to share this information because you might be helping out someone who could be helping out someone else, down the line. So we thank you. We're going to get through this, as a community, as a family, and that's what we call ourselves at the MECCA Group. Our team is the MECCA family. We appreciate all of our employees and our health care professionals who are working with us. We really appreciate them still being available to do the teletherapy. And we just thank them.
Yeah, and I just want everyone to know that it's, really important at this time to really think about how you're really feeling. How are you really feeling? And know that there is support out there. And if you need it, to reach out. If you don't reach out to the MECCA Group, you can reach out to a friend. You can reach out to someone you trust and, that will be a listening ear. And, let them know how you're doing. And check in on your family and check in on your friends, because as Dr. Ebanks said, just because you might be doing okay, they may not be doing okay. And again, letting them know that there are resources out there. And for some folks, this may be a temporary experience of feeling anxious or depressed or sad or lost. And when things go back to whatever our new normal is going to be, these feelings may change. This may be temporary. But temporarily, you may need some support, and that's okay. It's always okay to need support, whether it's temporary or long-term, but especially right now when we're living in such unusual times.
Well, I know you have to go, Dr. Mack, but we'll continue this next week. Another MECCA Moment here on Facebook Live. Until then, thank you guys so much for showing up today.
Thank you, Brandon. We appreciate you as well.
Yes, we certainly do. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
So we'll see them next week. Coping with stress, coping with pandemic stress. You can contact again www.themeccagroup.llc.com and also on Facebook and Instagram. Great tips. I feel good. You feel good out there? Like deep breathing? Yeah. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.